In a televised moment that stirred both curiosity and tension, Isabel Oakeshott found herself confronting Rachel Reeves on live television. This wasn't just a casual debate. It was a face-off between two political minds with clashing approaches and ideals, each committed to her perspective. The studio setting seemed electrified as Oakeshott, known for her sharp investigative skills and pointed commentary, met Reeves, a seasoned politician with a reputation for detailed responses and measured composure. Both knew the stakes, and neither seemed willing to give an inch. The tension was thick enough to cut with a butter knife, and the audience, both in the studio and at home, braced for a memorable exchange. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Oakeshott, with her characteristic directness, wasted no time in setting the tone. She didn't mince words or warm up the conversation with pleasantries. Instead, she charged in, asking the type of questions that typically send politicians scrambling for well-rehearsed answers. Her approach was simple. Make the questions pointed and let the discomfort linger just a little. Reeves, on the other hand, leaned into her experience, deflecting each question with an almost practiced ease. Her responses were swift, and she maintained a calm demeanor, offering an occasional raised eyebrow or slight smirk in response to Oakeshott's intensity. It was a display of subtle power from both women, Oakeshott pushing for revelations, Reeves holding her ground. What made this confrontation particularly engaging was the contrast between their styles. Oakeshott, with a journalist's tenacity, seemed to enjoy the hunt for answers, savoring every pause and hesitation. She leaned forward, her expressions shifting as she picked apart each of Reeves's responses like a hawk examining its prey. There was no hiding her intentions. She wanted clarity, specifics, and maybe even a misstep. Reeves, meanwhile, held herself with a politician's poise. Her responses, though sometimes evasive, were polished, and she met each question with a calm that was almost unnerving. It was like watching a chess match unfold, with every sentence calculated, each move considered. The live setting added to the tension. Viewers could almost feel the uncomfortable silence between questions, the moments when Oakeshott would let her words hang in the air, daring Reeves to respond. These weren't questions one could sidestep with generalities or platitudes. Oakeshott's inquiries demanded substance, and she was relentless in her pursuit. She didn't just ask about policy, she asked for explanations and accountability, sometimes with a hint of amusement, almost as if daring Reeves to catch her off guard. Reeves, in her own right, seemed prepared for this, maintaining her composure and responding with a kind of detached professionalism that seemed almost designed to frustrate Oakeshott. In some moments, the exchange turned nearly theatrical. Oakeshott, with her pointed gestures and intent gaze, was the picture of journalistic determination. She had the intensity of someone who wouldn't settle for anything less than the full truth. Reeves, sitting across from her, appeared like a fortress, stoic and occasionally allowing a quick, bemused glance that seemed to say, "Nice try." The dynamic was almost hypnotic, a battle of wits and strategies. Each seemed fully aware of the other's tactics, but neither seemed willing to let go of her approach. There was an undeniable friction in their dialogue, a subtle push and pull that kept viewers glued to the screen. Every question from Oakeshott was like a challenge, a call for Reeves to justify her positions and address her past statements. Reeves, refusing to be rattled, responded in a way that suggested she'd faced down such confrontations before. Her responses were like ripostes in a fencing match, swift, calculated, and slightly defensive. But Oakeshott didn't mind. In fact, she almost seemed to relish the opportunity to push harder, drawing out answers that might otherwise have been glossed over. The humorous aspect of the exchange lay in their unspoken tactics. Oakeshott, at times, would pause dramatically, as if inviting the audience to take in the weight of her question. Reeves, in contrast, seemed almost amused by these theatrical pauses, responding with a slight smirk or a nod that suggested she'd seen this technique before. It was a subtle game, a back and forth that combined political discourse with elements of stagecraft. The intensity was palpable, but there was also an underlying sense of sport in the way each woman seemed to respect the other's skill while trying to gain the upper hand. Throughout the confrontation, Oakeshott maintained a level of persistence that was admirable. She didn't just ask questions, she probed, nudged, and occasionally threw in a follow-up that left Reeves with little room for maneuver. Each question built on the last, creating a steady pressure that would have been daunting for most. Reeves, however, managed to hold her ground, sidestepping some questions with an almost artful deflection, while answering others with just enough detail to keep the conversation moving without giving too much away. It was an impressive display of political savvy, matched only by Oakeshott's journalistic agility. As the discussion moved from one topic to another, the tone shifted subtly, with each woman testing the other's patience. Oakeshott, who had a reputation for being unyielding, leaned in closer with each question, as if trying to read Reeves's expression for any sign of discomfort. Reeves, for her part, seemed to understand this tactic, meeting Oakeshott's gaze with a steady confidence that made her responses feel even more resolute. At times, she seemed to give answers specifically crafted to unsettle Oakeshott, adding a touch of wit or a carefully worded statement that hinted at her own confidence. One couldn't help but notice the subtle moments of irony that surfaced. Oakeshott, who was there to challenge and probe, sometimes found herself on the receiving end of Reeves's quick wit. When a question seemed particularly probing, Reeves would raise an eyebrow, offering a response that was as sharp as it was concise, almost as if reminding Oakeshott that she, too, had done her homework. This interplay added an unexpected layer to the discussion, giving the audience a glimpse into the respect both women seemed to hold for each other's intelligence, even as they sparred. The conversation danced around certain topics, with each woman trying to direct the flow to her advantage. Oakeshott, in her search for direct answers, occasionally found herself sidestepping Reeves's counterpoints. The exchange was almost like watching two seasoned chess players move their pieces, each anticipating the other's next move. Oakeshott would pose a question with calculated precision, only for Reeves to respond in a way that turned the focus back on Oakeshott, subtly shifting the dynamic. It was a game of rhetorical skill, a duel in which both participants knew the stakes. Despite the tension, there was a sense of mutual respect woven through their exchanges. Each understood the other's role in this televised dance. Oakeshott, with her investigative fervor, was there to challenge and uncover. Reeves, as a politician, was there to defend and justify. Neither tried to overstep, but neither held back, making for a conversation that felt as much like a performance as it did a genuine exchange of ideas. It was a rare moment of television, where the intensity of the confrontation was matched by the intelligence and wit of the participants. As the confrontation drew to a close, the two women seemed to share a brief moment of understanding. There was no handshake, no formal acknowledgement, but in their final words, there was a hint of respect, a nod to the other's skill in the arena they had just shared. Oakeshott's final question was met with one of Reeves's most poised responses of the evening, a fitting end to a discussion that had kept the audience on edge. They had both come to this confrontation prepared, and while neither seemed to have swayed the other, they had succeeded in creating a moment that viewers wouldn't soon forget. The confrontation between Isabel Oakeshott and Rachel Reeves was more than just a clash of ideas. It was a study in contrasting styles and approaches, a reminder of the power of words and the art of debate. Each woman brought her strengths to the table, and while their methods differed, their commitment to their roles was unmistakable. This wasn't a conversation meant to change minds, but rather to showcase the resilience and determination of two formidable women, each unyielding in her own way. This televised moment between Isabel Oakeshott and Rachel Reeves was a testament to the power of a well-timed question, the skill of a carefully crafted answer, and the subtle interplay of two seasoned professionals. Each brought her own brand of intensity, making for a conversation that was as memorable for its content as it was for the manner in which it was delivered. For Oakeshott and Reeves, this was another chapter in their careers, a moment that would be dissected and discussed long after the cameras had stopped rolling. For the audience, it was a front-row seat to a masterclass in debate, a chance to see two powerful figures engage in a confrontation that, while tense, was ultimately respectful and enlightening.